Hello friends. Friends, I would like to demonstrate the ARAP netting process in Oracle Fusion. So these are the steps which we need to carry out throughout our session in order to complete the whole cycle. Let's deep dive into the live demonstration. The very first step which we are going to be carrying out is to create a custom job role. So you have to log into Oracle Fusion, come to Tools, Security Console. So you should have a IT security role, otherwise you won't be able to see Security Console. And I've created a netting, custom netting role basically. So if you edit the role, the first step is to put the name of the role code, you can give any role code, and the role category is job role. The second tab is basically function security policy. So you need to assign function security function security. So this is the function, like, okay, the function is nothing but it's a is which form you can access, like which basically, like, yeah, not what data will come into data security policy, or which form you can access, right? So this one is like managing netting agreements and batches. So you have to assign this so that it appears in your receivables and payables workbench. Coming back to data security policies, now you have been assigned a form, but what data you can carry out on that form, what you can access, right? So that will come through data security policies. Now it could be a privilege to create a settlement, to delete the settlement, to update the settlements, or it could be a data basically, right? So my first data security policy is business unit. I'm going to show you all business units. I've just selected the data source as business unit, all values, and this field is mandatory. So you can just select any form, you can select any action, manage receivable transactions. Same goes to second policy, which is netting agreement policy. You have to select netting agreement as a source, resource. And if you see over here, I'm selecting all values, and it will give me, based on this data source, it will give me option actually whether I need only update or read or access to customer supplier netting or delete. So with this I can manage my netting agreements. I'm going to skip the role hierarchy. So role hierarchy, you don't have to do anything, but when you are assigning to the user, I'm assigning to myself, and that's it. Once you have done this job, once you've created, you need to run the role process, like synchronization process, which I can show it to you here. Is always going to be the first one. Run user and role synchronization process. Once you have run this, log out and log back in again, you will be able to see your netting function basically. So this should come here. So this was the function which we have assigned, and it has got two bullet points. One is to manage netting agreements, and second is to manage netting settlements. Okay. Now we'll move to the second step. Sequence category for netting. So let's create one. Select the payables. Category code, you can put it as netting. Netting payments. Again, we'll be selecting payables here. This is the one. Table I'm just going to put as AP checks all. Okay, so I'm just pressing the save button. And now we need to create document sequencing against this particular category. Document you can give any name basically. So I'm just going to put the name as netting payment or netting doc sequence. Application is against payables. Module is also payable. Here I can select gapless. Is it gapless or it is automatic or is it manual? And it's going to be set at the illegal entity level, and I'm going to put the date as old date so that I can utilize my old invoices. And here I'm going to assign the document category, the one which we created. So the creation, that one was netting. Okay. I'm just able to select automatic. I'll have to put my legal entity, which is going to be Pepco Poland. Okay. So this document sequence is assigned to legal entity. And if you want to create another sequence or you want to assign to other legal entity, you can do that as well actually, or you can create a new sequence for each legal entity. Let's create bank account. So selecting the branch from here, I'm going to select this branch. I'm going to call this as netting banking, sorry, netting bank account. Putting some weird account number, and my currency is going to be PLN, Zloty. This is going to be Pepco Poland legal entity. Account tab I can leave as it is. Used for netting purpose. You need to, this is more important because basically you need to tick this box, payables and receivables both. General GL accounts, I'm going to put GL accounts. Just going to put as 100. This is the account actually, yeah, cash card. I'll leave as it is. No change to this one. Okay, and I'm going to copy the same thing. You can tick this box. Again, it's not important actually. So reconciliation difference, where exactly you want to put in which account code combination you want to use actually for reconciliation. So you can put it over here. So I'm just selecting the one which is defaulted one, which we have used in the past. Right. Scroll down. This is very important, multi-currency account and netting account. Multi-currency account means if you got two invoices and one invoice is going to be, let's say your one invoice is in euro and second invoice is in dollar basically, you want this netting bank account to be used actually for multi-currency, you have to tick this box. Netting account needs to be ticked basically. And now I'll come to business unit access, where I'm going to assign business unit. This is my business unit. I'm not touching this part, but I'm going to enter the payment method which we have created. So this is my payment method and this is my purchasing category because of sequencing. Do you remember actually where we have created netting category and we have assigned sequence to that category as well actually. Okay, so I think we are pretty much done. Okay, so I need to put my van number. This is just a warning message. We can just ignore this. If required, we can put this van number later on. I think our next step is to create receipt classes and methods. Now you don't have to, it's okay. I'll just let me navigate to receipt classes and methods. So you have to come to receipt classes and method from setup and maintenance. Click on this one and you can search. You will find Oracle has already provided a seeded receipt class and methods. So Oracle has provided this receipt class which we are going to be using, and all we have to do is basically add this remittance account, the one account which we have created earlier. We need to add into a receipt class. So what I've done is, you can see like I've selected the business unit and I've selected the same bank account which we have created in our previous slide. Okay, I'm keeping it as primary bank. All these accounts I'm just going to retain. This is coming from automatically from the bank account. Some of them actually you have to uh, put the code combinations like unidentified receipts, on account receipts, unearned discounts, where exactly you have to put. So these are Oracle ones, seeded ones. You have to put unapplied receipts. Once you have done it, you press the save button and that's done. Okay, so we have created bank account. Now the next step. There was no mistake or like access basically because I could see all the business units except for this one. But then I was making some mistake actually while typing in. It was like Pepco, capital Pepco, Pol, NSP, Zo. And moment you enter this one, you press the search button, it will show you the setup. So the setup has been created actually in the past. All we have to do is basically um, there is a okay. You have to come to the cash processing and allow payment of unrelated transactions. Now this is very important actually. This will effectively link together the customers defined in a netting agreement in order to create a single receipt that spans more than one customer. Okay, so this is very important actually, checkbox. I'm pressing this. Yeah, this has been done. I don't have to touch this one. I can select because cross-currency rate type. I usually like put the exchange rates difference basically in this particular currency rate type. And yeah, we can just press the save button and that's it. So we have completed receivable options. Let's move to the next step. Let's move on to another step, the next step basically in our checklist, manage receivable transaction type. Let's come to setup and maintenance, receivables, and manage transaction types. I'm not going to be adding any new transaction types. The whole idea of creating the transaction type is basically um, to control which types of transactions in receivables to include or exclude for netting. So if you got any specific transaction type, like which you would like to net, then you have to create a new transaction type. Otherwise, like you can leave as it is, because at the time of netting agreement, you can select all transaction types. That means any invoices, regardless of invoice type, transaction type is going to be picked up. Okay, so this is transaction types, and now we'll come to the standard lookups. I'll try to cover 9 and 11, yeah, because both are related to the standard lookups. Now, these are the optional lookups. Okay, so coming to manage standard lookups, and you can see I'm just going to check aura net percentage. You can see netting group. So these are the groups basically you can create. So netting groups allows the netting manager to optionally create settlements for multiple agreements at the same time. Now, implementing this netting groups to group together similar business related agreements for settlements. So if you see my netting groups which I've created, and I've created a grouping based on the farming, based on the reseller, based on the distribution. So you are creating basically agreements for farming separately and reseller separately and distribution separately. This is just for the grouping, and it's optional basically. And I'll touch base one more thing is going to be the email subject. Now, these letters, netting letters, are sent out to the third parties. So, if you are sending letters to the third party, you would like to put the proper subject. So, if you want to rephrase or if you want to change your subject line, then you need to come to this profile option and change your subject as per your requirement. Pay groups. So manage pay groups. So let's go to the manage pay group setup. So payable, let's go to payable group setup. Manage payable lookups. You can see Oracle has provided only seeded one, but then you can keep adding lookup codes. Um, pay groups. So by definition, whilst the netting group controls the type of agreements to settle, the pay group functionality will help you to control the type of payable transactions to be excluded or included when you're building the netting settlement. So you're just segregating. So if you are creating the invoices and if you're associating that invoice with a specific pay group, and when you're creating the settlement, and at the time of creating the settlement, which is going to be the next step, you are excluding or including that particular pay group, right? The settlement will take care of those invoices. So what I've done is I've just created um, another pay group called netting. Yeah. So what I'll do is when I'm creating payable invoices, I'll be assigning those invoices to a specific pay group, so it can be picked up by the settlement. Now, this is going to be a very important step, creating the netting agreement. So we are going to create a netting agreement. So for that, actually, you have to come to either receivables or payables, come to account receivables, and within task panel, you can find this manage netting agreements. So if we haven't created any agreement, I'll select one. This is specific to the business legal entity. So there are multiple sections. The whole agreement, the whole settlement agreement has been divided into, like, one is business rules, netting preferences, then comes like pay groups, payables invoice types, receivable transaction types, trading partners, letters. So there are multiple sections. So I'm just going to give name as ABC Consulting, ABC Agreement. Okay, I put the start date. You can tick this box, so you can enter this netting bank account. So you might remember, actually, when we created a bank account, there was a checkbox called netting. So that bank account can be used for netting. You can order rule like due date from oldest to most recent. So you can order based on that, actually. And you can select the netting group which we have created. Segregation, which we this is only for the, like, reporting purpose, I would say, or like a segregation perspective. It's not mandatory. Okay. You can allow early settlement discounts to ensure that eligible discounts are applied to the amounts. And netting within each currency, that means if there are two invoices with two different currencies, then netting is going to be taking place within each currencies. And this is where exactly I was saying you can include or exclude the pay group. So if I'm saying include, and I can add the netting, the group which I've created, or I can exclude. I'll keep to make it simple, I'm just going to keep it for all. Coming back to invoice types, you can keep adding invoice types like credit memo, standard invoices, receivable transaction types. Again, this is what exactly I've shown you. Like, you can net a specific transaction type. I'm ignoring that as well. Actually, I'm saying, okay, all the transaction types should be part of the netting process. ABC, this is my supplier and the customer. Both are same. So I'm going to select ABC. Now, if you see the supplier tax registration number, that should be the same as the customer's tax registration number. Otherwise, system will warn you at the time of saving. Same goes to, again, I'm just going to select ABC Consulting here, selected letters. Now this is the letter, basically is the letter section where you can send an email. So I'm just going to be sending an email to myself, and from email, so like what should be part of the email. So I'm just going to be saying different email address, and I'm going to put cash dot from name. Okay, and once you have done it, you can simply save. Press the save button. Okay, I forgot to select the language here. So this is the letters are going to be generated in English. So I'm putting it American English. We'll rectify this error. Is saying that policy with check option violation. So let me check where exactly is going on. But the agreement has been created. Okay, now you can see like it has saved my netting agreement. Now the reason behind was the data policy was not correct. Okay, so I'll just walk through the data policy as well actually. So my agreement is created and I'll run through the data policy which we have created. Coming back to security and console. Right, so what I've done is I've just created a role for the netting agent and it needs to be assigned to my user profile. Okay, so I've just created a role which is called XX Netting Manager job role, financial job roles. Okay, coming back to functional security, you need to add these managed netting agreements and batches. Once you have done that, actually, you need to come to data security policies. So there are two security policies which I've kept. One is all business unit, so that actually it should show me all the business units. And actions is like non-mandatory, is mandatory, so you can select anything. It has no significance as such. I'm just selecting all business unit, and you have to select business unit, yes. Okay. Then you have to create another policy called netting agreement policy. Select the data source as netting agreements. Moment you select that data source as netting agreement, it will ask you whether you can update the netting agreement. You can treat the netting agreement, access customer and supplier netting, and delete the net. So I've selected everything basically. So this policy provides me privilege to delete and update and review agreement policies. Okay, once you have done that, you have to run this synchronization process. Once you've assigned this role to the user, just run the synchronization process. So this is the synchronization process, import user and role application security data. So once you have run this once synchronization has been done, you have to just log out and log back in again. And what I did is like just logging back in again, it allowed me to create agreement. Okay, so this is my agreement. I can edit as well actually, so I'm just going to, you can edit as long as you have not done any changes, not netted basically. Once you have netted, you won't be able to change the agreement. Okay, so I'm going to put this my email so the letters can come to my Outlook email. At the same time, I'm just going to say th. Yeah, Pepco Poland. Because this is specific to legal entity Pepco Poland, I'm just going to put the from name as Pepco Poland. Save. So let's create now receivable invoices and payable invoices. For the sake of this demo, like I've already created two invoices and that too in a different currencies. So I've created a receivable invoice in PLN, which is zloty basically. It's a Polish currency. The second one which I've created with the same supplier in euro. And similarly, I've done for the payable invoice as well, actually. So I'll quickly show you those invoices. So this is managed transactions. So I just came to managed transactions through billing and query on to 103, which is my customer. You can see like there are two invoices they got created. Like one is like 1000 PLN and second one was created euro. Similarly, so I can show you which I've noted down somewhere here. Yep. And the second one which I've created is in a different currency. So coming back to this particular workbench, you'll find there are two invoices and both have got the same days due date basically. Uh, the first one has got like 1000 euro and second was 5000 PLN. And now we'll do the agreement creation. Okay, so we need to create the agreement. I can show you I've created this agreement. You have to select the legal entity and give a name to agreement, saying netting preference, and put the netting preferences like netting bank account, which we have already created earlier, which is a dummy bank account, explicitly meant for the netting. Uh, Here we are going to be putting allow early settlement discount. That means if the due date, if you are going to be paying earlier, you might get the discount. So you can tick this box. Netting currency rule, net within each currency. So you are netting within each currency, or you can do the netting within using the single currency. So let's go with net within each currency. That means each invoice within this currency is going to be netted off. Okay. And here I'm showing you pay group. So I'm just selecting the netting pay group. So let's go back to one of the invoice. Come to manage installment, and you can see in the netting pay group. So I'm excluding all the invoices and including only those invoices which has got pay group as set to netting. And this is how you can do the segregation. Similarly, you can do the filtering on the invoice type. So I can have invoices, standard invoices, as well as credit memos and debit memos. So you can filter based on those invoices, payable invoices. Receivable transaction types. So you can include or exclude receivable transaction types. Here you have to add the supplier which is going to be netted between. So like my supplier is ABC consulting basically, and even the customer is my ABC consulting. So here you have to just add both those ones because we are creating an agreement for these suppliers and the customer. Okay. Once you have done it, press the save button and close it. The next step is going to be creating the settlement. Okay. So we are going to be creating settlement and then we are going to be submitting the settlement. I think both are the same actually at the same time, but no, but same, there are two different activity. Once you have identified those invoices, then you can press the submit button actually so that receipts and the payments can happen or netting can happen actually. So let's create. Okay, I'm just going to be selecting because we haven't created netting group. You can also group your agreements. But since we haven't grouped our agreements, it just we are just trying to do the netting based on a single agreement basically. Settlement date, when exactly you want to settle. So what will be the date basically? The settlement name, which is going to be appearing on your receipts of the payments. Settle without review. I'm setting it to no because I would like to see which invoices or which receivable invoices and which payable invoices have been picked up. So I'm going to leave this as it is. Transaction due date is 1825. So this is my transaction due date. Any due date before, on or before this due date is going to be picked up. So all the invoices which has got due date on or before this due date will be picked up. Okay, I'm saying conversion because I do have a conversion rate type. This is the National Bank of Poland. I'm pressing the save button. Moment you press the save button, the process will start. It will kick off the process. You can press submit. You can keep pressing it. Now, have you seen this one now? So it has created two different settlements. Yeah, it has created two different settlements, one for PLN and one for euro. And now if you want to see, you can download this one, and it's an ADFDI format actually. So click on this one, you'll find those invoices have been selected. Okay, so it has picked up. Look at this regular invoices 1000, and this is receivables, and this is my payables 500 PLN. Okay, 500 PLN, and this is my receivables. Payables is 500 and receivables is 1000, and you can see the netting proposed netting amount. It has okay. Let me close this one, and I'll show you another one. Okay, so this is the same thing. Payables amount is 1000 and 500 receivable amount euro, and my proposed netting amount is 500. Perform the settlement, the one which we have created. So let's move on to the settlements. Okay, so I've shown you the invoices selected. So click on this one and press the submit settlement button. Similarly, like we have to press select this one and submit settlement. And now we'll monitor basically. So this has errored out. Let me check. Is there any setup which is missing? Okay, let's see. After investigating the logs, actually, like I figured out like there was a document sequence which was missing. Remember, actually, we have created document sequence category earlier, which is like ARAP netting. Now, for that, we have created automatic. We have selected the method as automatic. We need to create as manual as well. So I've just created assignment for document category and selected the method as manual and automatic both basically, and it works. So if you say like after submitting the settlement one more time, but you cannot submit, you have to delete such a settlement and then you have to recreate. You cannot resubmit. That's the drawback basically. So you have to delete the settlement or resubmit, create the settlement and then do the submission, and it has done the settle basically. Now coming back to our invoices which we have created, and I'll show you what exactly it did. Now can you see my transactions? These are my transactions which we have created. If you click on this one, coming back to this example, like, okay, now the receipt was created for 500, settlement was for 500. So my AR invoice, I'm still to receive 500 PLN basically after this settlement. So let's click on PLN first. Okay, so the balance due is 500. That means it has created a receipt, a dummy receipt, and then assigned to that particular receivable. Okay. Similarly, I'll show you this one, euro. Now this was complete basically. That's what settled was 500. So my outstanding should be, I should not be receiving uh, any amount from the supplier in euro. So if you come back to this and come back to review installment, it will show you the balance due zero. The line has been closed. The installment is closed. We'll quickly review the receipts which were created. Let's review the receipts. And I'm going to select the receipt method as netting. You can see there are two receipts created. It got created, and at the same time the status is going to be cleared. So it doesn't go for the processing. It just set the status to cleared. Now we'll go back to the payables as well, actually, to quickly check what exactly happened to those invoices. Right. So now if you see, the first one was fully paid. So the first one was fully paid. Yeah. The second one was partially paid. Okay. So I'm still to, so I have to make a payment of 500. So unpaid amount is 500. So next time, actually, when I'm processing the payment process profile, through payment process profile, I'll be making payment only for 500 because everything has been settled now. Okay. There's another aspect which I would like to explain you. Like, see, we have done the settlement. So it has created the receipts. At the same time, it has created the payments against those invoices. There is an option you can reverse those settlement. So once you do the reverse settlement, automatically all those receipts and payments are going to be reversed. So let's give a try on this. I'm pressing the reverse settlement. I'm doing the reverse. So my invoices should come into the original state. Okay, so you can see the status has been changed to reversed. Let's go back to our invoices. Okay, where's my invoice? Oh, I'm in a wrong screen actually. Okay, so you can see these invoices, like entered amount is this, and I'll go back to the manage installment, review installment. So it should be open. So this is open now. So it has reversed those receipts which were created. Let's go back to another one. Okay, so this is opened. Let's query the receipts which we created. Okay, so the receipt which we created got reversed, and an applied amount is zero basically. So there's no application happened to the invoice. Okay, the same treatment happens even on the payable side. So we have covered end-to-end AR/AP netting process. Hope you liked my session. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe to my channel. Thank you.